In 2002, in the far land of Akure, a stranger named Izunna came into town. He was a quiet man around the age of 45, with no known relatives or friends in the area. His arrival was neither grand nor dramatic, and no one truly paid attention to him at first. He rented a house in a quiet compound, away from the hustle and bustle of the city center, and kept mostly to himself. After a while, he started a beer parlour business. He spent most of his days working and managing the small beer parlour he had set up in the heart of the market, selling pepper soup and catfish with chilled drinks. Izunna's beer parlour quickly gained a reputation. It was the kind of place where people would come after a long day's work, sit on wooden bench and talk about everything from local politics to the latest football match. The aroma of spicy pepper soup and fish filled the air, and the sound of laughter and chatter could be heard into the late hours of the night. But despite his thriving business, Izunna remained a mystery. He never had visitors. No friends ever came to visit him, and he never seemed to have any family members around. He was a man of few words, and his workers, two young men, only knew him as a quiet, reserved boss who always minded his own business. They never asked him about his past, nor did they ever make an effort to get too close to him. Everything about him seemed normal, almost too normal, until one day when a strange encounter took place. It was in the middle of the week, one hot afternoon in the market. Okonkwo, an older man from the village of Izunna's ancestral home in Imo State, was shopping for things in the market. He had come to Akure for a friend's wedding and stopped by the market to get some things. As he walked through the busy market, he saw a figure that made his heart skip a beat. It was a man he recognized, Izunna. But that couldn't be right. Izunna had died years ago. He was certain of it. Confused and filled with disbelief, the man stood frozen in the market for several minutes. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. He had attended the funeral in Imo State, had been part of the mourning, and he even helped lower his casket into the ground. There was no mistaking the face. This was the man who had been laid to rest over a decade ago. Unable to understand the situation, the man followed Izuna at a distance, trying to keep his distance without being noticed. He watched as Izuna bought some meat, some fish, and spices, then walked to his beer parlour and entered the shop. Okonkwo's mind was racing, and he knew he couldn't ignore what he had just witnessed. This wasn't just a case of mistaken identity. He had seen Izuna die, so why was he alive in Akure? After the wedding, Okonkwo returned to his village and told Izuna family about what he had seen. At first, they dismissed his claims as nothing more than a wild story, a figment of his imagination. After all, how could someone who had been dead for so many years be alive again? But he was adamant. He described the scene in detail, how Izunna had been buying meat and catfish, and how he followed him to his beer parlour. He could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. I saw him with my own eyes, Okonkwo told his family. Izunna is living in Ondo State. He's in Akure. His family listened. They were intrigued. They decided to go and see things for themselves. Izunna's uncle, Mr. Waha, decided to go with Okonkwo to see things for himself, hoping this might be able to shed some light in the strange situation. They planned their journey and in 5 days they set out for Ondo State. One Sunday evening, around 7:30 p.m., Okonkwo and Mr. Waha arrived at the beer parlour hoping to see Izunna. The shop was bustling with customers as usual. There were men with their wives, others with girlfriends, and a few lone drinkers enjoying their evening. The atmosphere was warm and lively, and the smell of pepper soup and grilled catfish filled the air. They walked in, scanning the room for Izuna, but he was nowhere to be found. They waited for several minutes, but there was no sign of the man they were searching for. The senior salesboy, Ake, a tall, quiet young man, was behind the counter serving drinks. Okonkwo and Waha approached him and asked if they could speak to Izuna. He's not here right now, Ake replied. He was here just now. Maybe he's gone out for a while. He'll be here soon. They decided to wait, sitting at one of the tables. The hours passed by quickly as they sat there watching the other customers eat, drink, and talk. But Izunna never showed up. The two men became uneasy as they waited, unsure of what to think. 3 hours later, as the beer parlour began to empty, Ake began to tidy up the tables, preparing the shop for the following day. The two men exchanged worried glances. They had been waiting for hours, but Izunna had not appeared. I think we should leave, Okonkwo suggested. The two men left the beer parlour, their minds filled with more questions than answers. Where is Izunna? Where could he have gone to? Could it be the real Izunna or we mistaking him for someone else? Mr. Waugh kept thinking to himself. The next morning, Ake, the senior salesboy, came to the shop and waited for Izunna, but he didn't show up. He decided to go to his house to deliver the night's earning and to discuss the plan for the shop operation that day. He had never visited him before. When he arrived at the compound, they asked a woman living there. His room is that way, she told him, pointing to a modest door at the far end of the compound. Ake knocked on the door for several minutes, but there was no response. He waited for nearly 20 minutes before finally giving up. This was not normal. Where could Izuna be? Ake returned to the beer parlour, hoping to meet him there, but he was nowhere to be found. He became worried. Days passed, and no one saw Izuna. His workers tried reaching him, but there was no answer. He never showed up at the shop again, and no one seemed to know where he had gone to. Whispers began circulating. People in the market streets began to talk. Some believed that Izuna had simply disappeared, leaving the beer parlour behind. Others said he is a ghost, while some said he had been kidnapped. Okonkwo and Waha, still both determined to find out the truth, continued their investigation. They spoke to the neighbors who told them strange stories about Izuna's behavior. Some claimed that he never interacted with anyone in the compound, never had visitors, and seemed to live in complete isolation. Others said they had seen him, but always at odd hours, always when no one was around. Determined to uncover the truth, the two men returned to the compound one afternoon. They explained to the landlord, who also lives in the compound, that they were relatives of Izuna and they had come to inquire about his whereabouts. Reluctantly, the landlord agreed to open the door to Izuna's room. When they entered, they found the room empty. The only thing inside were an old wooden bench and a calendar from 1995. The landlord was shocked as he stared at the old calendar. Why does he have an old calendar? What's going on? No one could make a meaning out of what was happening. Rumors began to spread like wildfire. Some believed that Izuna had died in 1995 and that somehow his spirit had come back to live among them. They said that the old calendar was a sign that he never truly left and that he had been walking the earth in some strange form. Others dismissed the idea, saying it was just superstition, that Izuna was simply a man who had disappeared for reasons unknown. But as the days turned into weeks, and then months, no one saw Izuna again. His workers moved on. The beer parlour ceased operation, but the mystery of Izuna lingered in the air. Was he dead or alive? Was he a ghost? Or he had simply vanished without a trace? The question remained unanswered, and the people of Akure were left to wonder, do the dead walk among us? What do you think? Do you think the dead walks among the living? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching.